guess being a Monday, we could check in and see if anything exciting or amazing happened this weekend that anybody knows of.
Leave your learn that on beat Dustin 28 or UFC 232 as a main card. But it was undefeated fighters like a 28 title.
Somebody got hit a lot. I got really sweaty. It was so hot on Saturday, my God. Yesterday was pretty sweaty too. Today might be decent.
Oh, the power outage.
Wait, you had a power out?
Yeah, on Friday night the power went out.
Rolling blackout?
It was because of the wind.
Oh.
They had to turn it off.
Had to turn it off, yeah. Yeah, they said they were going to turn it off at my house and then they didn't.
Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
Not Christmas.
No, that stuff makes me super nervous because I got a bunch of meat in a freezer and it's always when it's hot the power goes out and I don't want all my meat to go bad. Okay. Let's do some quick 1.1 homework stuff. Tragedy of the Commons was not explicitly in assignment 1.1, but you should by now have defined that somewhere. How many of you have Tragedy of the Commons as part of 1.1? How many of you have it on a separate paper? Wherever you have it, I want to make sure that we check on a few things. There are no like single definitions that are definitely right or definitely wrong. I think a lot of you try really hard to use big words sometimes, but you don't need to. The College Board does not care about how wordy you are. They actually don't want you to be wordy. They want you to be really direct. So here's some stuff that your Tragedy of the Commons should have. We've discussed this before, so maybe you're already there. I just want to check one last time before we move on. Share without rules. Some resource that we share freely. You can say open sharing, open access, unlimited access to resource, share without rules. Somehow you need that concept in your definition wherever you have it. That means that individuals benefit, but the cost or the degradation is shared by everybody else. Somehow in your definition you have to explain that. Benefit is personal, but cost is communal. Or benefit is individual, but cost is shared. Somehow you got to say that. And then you have to have the outcome. In this system, people will take that individual benefit and spread out the cost. And so the resource will be degraded. Somehow you have to say you're going to ruin that thing that you share. That's the whole Tragedy of the Commons. When we share without rules, people will rationally take all the benefit for themselves. Even though the cost is shared by everybody, that makes a rational decision. So over time, that resource gets used up, it gets ruined, it gets degraded. There's a bazillion ways to say this, and I'm not going to like pick through all of your answers, but you should try to include all those points. Anybody want to ask me about that concept? Are we tired of this? Is Tragedy of the Commons getting old by now? We've been through enough? Hey look, you can all tell me, you can go like this. And that kind of means like, bro, let's move on. And that's fine, I'll move on. Okay, the explicitly chapter 1 vocab. Sustainability for resources, ecosystems, growth in the economy. I don't know, we've probably kind of talked about this enough. And you got it out of the book, I guess. Some of them are kind of difficult, like the sustainable economy. I don't really know what that would be. A sustainable economy is one that keeps everybody going forever. And our economy doesn't really seem sustainable these days. Because more and more of the wealth is being concentrated, less and less people have stuff that they can do to make money. So I don't know. Sustainable economy is kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around. But the other ones are kind of You know, sustainability, anything you can do over and over, you can keep doing it. Able to keep doing it. Hey, I'm in mega cities, I need you to make a note. Your book said cities over 10 million, that's fine, but you should all know that it used to be 8 million. And we just got too many of those, so we raised the threshold. So sometimes if you read old articles, or old books, or you talk to old people, you should know that megacities used to be 8 million and larger. Now most of us use 10 million as the cutoff for megacities. Not a lot of vocab on this one. You want to ask me anything about the vocab before I move on? Okay, fine. Number 1, you copied down 6 themes. Meh. Meh. Growing population, sustainability, global perspective, urbanization, science and values, people and nature, whatever. But number 2, please look up. Number 2, please look up. I don't know if you're good at reading graphs, but the rate of growth was steepest in the 1970s, and you have to know that. In the 1970s, human population grew the most quickly. Look, growing, but growing slowly. Growing, but a little bit more quickly, growing much more quickly, growing at the quickest rate, 1970s. In case anybody's curious, we're going to get into this later, but developing economies, better food production, better water quality. We started building dams so we could provide water to more people more reliably, and people could make food more reliably. Okay, so 1970s, rapid growth, and now watch this. In the year 2000, we're starting to drop off, and there's a theoretical future where human population will level out. And you have to know, 2050, 11 billion. 2050, 11 billion. No promises, but most demographers say that if things keep going like they're going, if we don't like shake and reset the planet, probably see human population level off at 11 billion in the year 2050 or so. So you might be alive at a moment when human population stops growing. And that's kind of a crazy thought. 2050. I could make it to 2050. Maybe. Yeah, I got it too. But you're likely to make it to the year 2050. Who knows what happens to the economy when populations stop growing? That's actually a really fascinating and interesting and difficult question.
Will it ever like decrease?
Well, most predictions are that yes, but it's never happened before, so we don't know what that does to the global economy, so we don't know if that's actually going to happen. If the world behaves like a nation at a certain point of development, populations are going to shrink. But we don't know if the world behaves like a nation. Yeah?
On the whole economic thing, wouldn't the economy decline unless exponential consumerism happened?
Right now, there's essentially no global models of growing an economy without growing population. You would need everybody to work more, to make more, to earn more, to buy more for the economy to keep growing, but most of us probably cannot foresee working more and making more to earn more, to buy more. So when population levels out, it seems like the economy will level out. And with no growth, then banking systems kind of don't make sense anymore. And so who knows, man, crazy times.
So you're telling me that you just invest all my money?
I'm not sure what I'm telling you. I'm so out of my league. I really don't know, man. Above my pay rate. Let's go by me to retirement. If I can retire, I'm happy with that, man. Going to Mexico. Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean if the world like behaves as a nation?
So we do know, and by the way, there's a whole unit for this, so I don't want to get too invested right now because we're going to have like months to talk about this. But we know that when nations reach a certain level of development, that their populations stop growing and then start shrinking. And we know that most economies will shrink when population shrinks, because we've seen that already in countries at the national level. We've never seen that at the global level. So we don't really know if the planet will do the same thing that countries normally do. Okay. I gotta point something out in study goal number 2. I hope you wrote down that thing about the food riots in which countries, because maybe you noticed a pattern. 2007, 2008, I did not notice personally any food shortages. When I went to Albertsons and Trader Joe's and Costco and Home Depot, I could buy whatever I'm used to buying, no problem. So I don't know, that food shortage might be fake news. Didn't affect me. But globally, if you wrote down those countries, you might know that something happens during and after food shortages. Most of those countries have destabilized, and in many cases have experienced civil war. You might have heard of big cultural upheaval in Egypt, Yemen, Sudan, later Syria. Food shortages seem to be real, seem to be increasingly common, and when people are hungry, they don't just hang out and keep doing what they've been doing. When people are hungry, they kind of try to do something about it. That thing about food shortages, that is actually real. I was being facetious about the fake news thing, and that is actually kind of scary. And we don't notice them because we've got all the money and we got all the guns and we got all the stuff, and it's easy for us to eat. That was your hand up? Yeah.
So generally, don't they happen in poor desert countries with frequent droughts?
Yeah, so they happen in places that you might call marginal, like not super self-sustaining, not super productive. Places that were already kind of dependent on other people who couldn't maintain their level of support sometimes. And it can actually go two ways while we're talking politics. Food shortages can destabilize a country, and destabilization can be food shortages too. So those are kind of hand in glove. They always go together. All right. Hey, but number 3, the thing about how natural catastrophes are becoming more deadlier. Does anybody know what is the deadliest natural disaster worldwide today?
The tsunami in Japan.
Not tsunami. The type of natural disaster that kills the most humans nationwide. Sorry, worldwide.
Famine?
What?
Famine?
Famine's not necessarily a natural disaster, and no,
Earthquake.
it's not earthquakes.
Typhoons, no.
It's not typhoons.
Hurricane.
It's not hurricanes.
Volcanic
Fire.
eruption.
Volcano.
It's
Flood.
where's a volcano?
Flood.
No, it's not floods. It's not volcanoes.
Fire.
It's not fires.
Disease.
It's not disease.
Wind.
And
Wind, yeah. You got it. It's wind. Wind is the deadliest natural disaster. Yes. No, it's not drought. Sharknadoes, that's right, everyone.
Actually happened once like 20 years ago.
What else is there?
There.
If you know people in London or Paris,
Oh, is it like
Too much rain.
epidemic
Oh,
diseases?
what?
Heat.
Heat waves.
Oh.
Oh yeah, aren't like a ton of old people in the Midwest just dropping like flies right now?
Yep.
Why?
Okay, so first of all, any heat wave is deadly because some people are already kind of fragile. So if you're already like running on fumes, so to speak, the heat wave can raise your blood pressure, so now your heart attack rates go way up. They can cause you to be dehydrated, so your blood gets thicker, so you're more likely to have a stroke or a heart attack. There's a lot of people who can be trapped indoors, like people who are in recovery from illnesses or from injuries, or the elderly that need assistance to get out of the house. And so heat waves, when you live in a house, can first of all be much higher than outside temperatures. I don't know about your house, but my house at a part of the day gets way hotter than it is outside. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so like it might be 104 outside, but inside your house it's 109 or whatever. And you can imagine that like my house, I can just leave. But if I was homebound like a lot of elderly people, then I might get stuck there. Here's the thing. Heat waves are becoming a lot more common. Please look up. Solid line is temperature. Temperature goes up and down, and you get an average. That's called climate. Are we all comfortable with that? Climate is the average of weather. So some days are hot, some days are cold. That's weather. And the average of those is called climate. You comfortable with this?
Yeah.
Now, the dashed line is what happens to that average when, what happens to that weather when the average goes up. So look, that dashed line is the new global average. Our planet's about 1 or 2 degrees hotter than it used to be. And so you just take all those ups and downs and you elevate them a little bit. But now watch this. If this is the critical temperature, you used to just flirt with heat waves, but now you've got entire days and days and days in a row of heat wave, and by the way, more extreme heat wave. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
The red line, the threshold for a heat wave. So when the planet gets a little bit warmer, there's more of them, they are hotter, and they are longer. And so climate change is really affecting this natural disaster. Like climate change does not affect volcanoes, climate change doesn't affect earthquakes, climate change doesn't really seem to affect tornadoes, it moves where they happen. Climate change does make hurricanes more severe when they happen, and it does make heat waves more common and more severe. This is pretty nar-nar. There was a hand somewhere and I ignored it.
What would happen hypothetically if the climate became that red line?
If that average?
Yeah.
Well, I think that we'd be really, really screwed. You know, most of us can't like repopulate other parts of the earth. And so the question is, if it happens quickly, you know, what does that mean? If I'm not mistaken, there was one day where 54 people died in London from heat, or heat-related death. That's a lot. That's a huge, horrifying number. Okay, natural disasters, more catastrophic. In your notes, I need you to have something. Marginal areas are becoming more inhabited. I can explain why if it helps you. When you start building the city, everybody moves to the nice part of town, right? And you're like, you get to pick wherever you want to live. David Imperial. Smash the phone against your face.
One of my brothers.
Smash the phone against your face. Smash it. Good. Now throw it somewhere far away. Now put it somewhere far away. Further. Further. Nice. Pass it up, I'll put it down. Okay. Gonna fall back?
No.
Little swishy pattern. He's like a little snake. You put that up to your face.
Like burrito on it and shit.
Congratulations, you really example.
Remember that when you start developing an area, everybody's going to pick the nicest spots to live first. If there's like some swamp over there, nobody's going to live in the swamp because you can live over here where it's shady and over here where it's breezy and over here where the view is nice. And as that city grows, it's like, well, now we got to take some of those places that are kind of hotter and sunnier and have like crappy views. And eventually, if your city keeps on growing, it's like, sorry, bro, you're going to have to live in the swampy spot. And because humans are all clumping, we're like, hey, where all the humans go? Nobody's like, go hang out with the other humans. Like, because humans are clumping, our cities are expanding into the marginal areas. Most of our cities have people living now in the crappy part of town, which used to be uninhabited. That's a global pattern. And so now when a hurricane hits, there's a whole bunch of people below sea level or whatever. Oh, and one other thing you might want to add in number 3 is this thing called the media effect. The media effect, which is the idea that stuff seems like a big deal when we hear about it a lot. Like it's more present in our brains. When you say something a lot, your brain thinks about it more. It appears that the human brain is really easy to manipulate. If you show people 2 movies that are identical, but in one of them the script says hurricane more often, and then you ask people like, how afraid are you of hurricane? If you just watched a movie that said the word hurricane more, you'll be more afraid of hurricanes. Like your brain's not that picky. So whatever you hear about seems like a bigger deal. Like nobody should care about the Kardashians. They don't impact your life at all, but we hear about it a lot, so our brain's like, oh my god, big deal. It's called the media effect. Okay. Wait, what? Is that for me or no? Number 4, meh. Number 5, we don't need to save no stinking planets. Please don't use that phrase. It's totally not necessary. Please look up. That planet's going to be the exact same planet for a long, long time. It's just a big, dumb rock just tumbling through space. Just go. And it's been doing that for a long, long time. We've got like, I don't know, anybody know the number? 1.3 billion? Years to go? Before gravity sucks it into the sun?
Yay!
1.5? 5 billion?
No,
Yeah, whatever, it's a long, who cares?
Populations would be probably.
There's nothing to save there. There's nothing to save. Planet's just doing planet stuff. Planet's gonna keep doing planet stuff.
You can pull Armageddon.
You know, like, I think if you were to take all of the atomic bombs on Earth and bury them in very deep holes, you could pulverize the Earth. But even if we detonate all the bombs at once, most bombs actually detonate in the atmosphere before they hit the ground so that they're deadlier. Do you know that? Before nuclear fallout. So we figured out that atomic bombs are more disruptive if they go off in the air. So if we were just to like press all the red buttons, we would be screwed. But the planet's just going to be doing its stupid planet thing. And then some people are like, you know, trying to save life on Earth, like with a capital L. But think about it. The planet keeps switching its life around. It's like somebody who's frustrated about their clothing, and so they try on an outfit and they don't like it, so they shake it off and they put on a new one. Like, that's our planet's little outfits. It's like, oh, these dinosaurs are just not working out, and then the planet just like shakes it off, and other stuff happens. So like, yes, mass extinction is here. This is the most rapid extinction. We're losing all sorts of species. Somewhere around 200 to 300 a year, maybe. So in the next 100 years, we're going to lose a whole lot of species. Climate change will accelerate the loss of species. And the planet is going to be fine. And other life is going to evolve afterwards, so life is going to be fine. I want to remind you all, like, there's something actually substantial that we should worry about.
Us.
Saving the humans, us. I feel like when people save the planet, they just sound silly. And people are like worried about life. That just seems like not well defined. But like, hey, what if we were like worried about dying children? Like, that's a righteous goal. Like, that's important. And you can do something about it. And like, that's a good focus, I think. Like, I don't know if you believe in gods or God or luck, or if it's a mystery that you're comfortable with. But somehow we have this like amazing, wondrous earth. And humans are just like, yay, just ruining it. I just feel like you're not gonna like save the planet, because like it's gonna keep doing its thing. And like life's gonna be life. Like life will be life. But I just feel like we're blowing it. We're just blowing it. Like somebody gave you like delicious salmon and you're like, thank you, and you like poop on it. And here you go, brand new Ferrari, and it's like, thank you for the key, and then you just start like kicking your Ferrari and like scratching it with your key, like, hey, this is good, right? Like that's humans with the earth right now. We're just like, oh, great, you got this beautiful planet, like maybe we just kill all those and burn all that. Push all this over. Hey, and if you're interested about what's going to happen with the Earth when the humans are gone, there's a fantastic book that considers this really carefully. It is a brilliant, super academic, award-winning book called The World Without Us. And I have like 10 or 20 copies I can lend out if anybody ever wants to read it. It is a fascinating, big-time book to read. Totally change your life. Unbelievable, excellent, real science, really good book. World Without Us, Alan Weisman. Okay. Hey, how many humans, warm up from last week, how many humans can we fit in this room? How many?
I say like 5,000.
5,000 in this room?
You stack them.
Or burn them. You said burn them.
Or burn them?
Like little ashes.
Fascinating. I think we could go over 5,000.
Well, I put
I have held a dead person's ashes. It's not a lot.
I put like 10 million burn.
Oh,
I said 10,000. Then you could cut them up and then put them in a blender.
It's like a liquid.
Crossing it with the liquefying.
And then so the room's just filled with liquids. It's like this.
a big inverted swimming pool of human juice.
Oh, it's green and red and you're talking about.
Andrew, really, would it feel better to put a booger on somebody else's phone?
Is it? Burks?
Yeah.
Like, if everybody needs, like, their little bubble.
Personal space.
Yeah, personal space. Get away from here, it's gross. You know, like, protected from smelling other humans. What, like 6, maybe?
One comfortably.
Yeah, right? Yeah, one person, like, running around naked, whatever gross stuff they want to do. Right? How I want to use the space, just me.
If you're like a mile away from most places you play.
You know, like I've put 43 students in here before. So we had like extra desks and chairs, and you could really feel the heat build up. Like 43 people just got too hot. And you can tell, like every day, I'd be like, oh my god, it's second period, everybody would complain. You go outside and you come back in and it's felt like an oven. Yeah.
65 before the fire marshal kind of gets a bit angry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's probably a ratio for this. This is exactly the question about carrying capacity. I put that warm up on the board a couple days ago knowing that I would have this study goal coming up. Remember that there's no magic number for how many humans. The question is how they're going to live. Somebody wrote a novel in another language. I don't know the title. Somebody wrote a novel in another language about a dystopian future where the government is run by religious fanatics that believe that women's job is to produce offspring and that all life is fundamentally sacred. And so they've built this society under the belief that all life is sacred, women should produce a whole lot of babies. So each woman has 20 or 30 babies in her lifetime, and the planet is just grossly overpopulated. And in this book, you have this like constant theme of women are here to make babies and all life is sacred. That's like on loudspeakers and everybody says that. And all the humans are packed into these warehouses like sardines in the nude, and they can't speak because it's a waste of calories, and they have a tube going in and a tube going out. And quality of life is irrelevant, but life itself is sacred. And in this book, the entire earth is covered by these warehouses of humans, and all their waste is pumped by machines into the ocean where other robots harvest algae that's pumped back into the humans.
Sustainability.
And like, honestly, like it's a tight little system, right? You can probably keep doing that for a while. Just build more warehouses, I guess. I don't know, barges, put them on barges, I don't know. And so the book is like, yo, what do we actually care about when we talk about resources and we talk about people? We could put all sorts of humans on here, but it really depends how they're going to live. If humanity was going to live like the average villager in rural India, we could have more than double our current world population sustainably. So I don't know if you want that life, but that's definitely an option. We could double human population planet-wide. On the flip side, if everybody was going to live like us, we'd have to get rid of about 80-odd% of humanity. Carrying capacity is irrelevant. There's no number. There's no number. 20 billion? Sure. Yeah, we can do 20 billion. They're going to be really simple, difficult lives, but yeah, we can do 20 billion. The number's irrelevant. The question is quality of life. Did I explain that correctly? Does somebody want to ask me something? Fine. Number 7, you've got to check these numbers. If you got them, you're good. Developed countries, 25-75, rural to urban. Developing countries, 40 urban, 60 rural. By the year 2025, 2/3 will be in cities, 67% will be in cities. And the tipping point was the year that my daughter was born, I think, 2008. You were all born on a planet where humanity is mostly rural. When you were like 8 or something, you were 6? 6 or 7, the planet became primarily urban. So you lived through that transition. I did too. My girl was born at the tipping point. My boy was born in a planet where humanity is primarily in cities. That thing about switching to cities, that's going to be a really big deal for the rest of your life and for the rest of our class. And please look at number 8. Your study guide said compare living in a city and living in the country. And yeah, cities can be much cleaner, but I have to point out they aren't necessarily all cleaner. So a lot of the efficiencies of packing all the humans together, those are possible but not always accomplished. How many of you made a list in number 8 of the reasons that cities are cleaner? Like more mass transit, smaller homes, more efficient. You got that stuff? I need to point out that that is theoretically possible, but like, how's the mass transit in Santa Barbara? How's the mass transit in Los Angeles? The average Los Angelino drives 40 minutes each way every day. 40. Each way. For anybody who has to drive less than that, there's somebody driving more than that because that's the average. So mass transit is doable, doesn't mean all the cities are doing that. And living in really efficient small spaces is possible, like Tokyo, but that doesn't mean that everybody's doing that. In Santa Barbara, we all have our own little private ranches. Goods could be local. You could have localized economies with minimal transport. But of course, most of our economy is international. It's global. So, cities could be much cleaner. In reality, many cities are not much cleaner. In many cases, everybody moving to the cities is making our planets actually more impacted. Does anybody have a way to explain the precautionary principle in day-to-day English that's not the definition you copied from the book? Precautionary principle in day-to-day conversational language, yeah?
Test something and like see the effect before you do it. Decide whether or not it's good or bad.
That's actually not the precautionary principle. Yeah?
If there's a threat of like environmental damage, we shouldn't wait for proof that it is damage before we do something about it.
You're right, but that's actually pretty wordy. What's a way that we all say this all the time? Like it's a figure of speech that we use in day-to-day English.
You see something.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Kinda?
Try to be safe and sorry.
That's the one I was thinking about. Right? Rather be safe than sorry? Like, oh, that might be hot, maybe I shouldn't touch it. Or like, oh, that might be loaded, maybe I shouldn't point it at my stomach and pull the trigger. Like, oh, this climate change stuff might be real, maybe we should kick back on the fossil fuels. Strangely, the precautionary principle is like a really simple thing in science. It's like, hey, that might be toxic, don't eat it. We tell our children, right? Like, yo, that might be hot, don't reach up on the stove. And like, all of you know, like, those berries might be toxic, don't eat random berries. Or that mushroom might be one of the very few deadly ones, don't eat it just in case. That snake might be venomous, don't pick it up. We all do this all day long. We raise our children to be careful in advance. Precautionary principle. Rather be safe than sorry. If you find a gun, don't point it at yourself and pull the trigger. Because, you know, it might be loaded. And this is totally, utterly obvious. In science, when we think that there's like this big, scary boogeyman ahead of us, we could be like, yo, this climate change might be real, y'all. Let's not make it worse. How many of you know who Yosemite Sam is? It's a cartoon character from like
Looney Tunes.
way back in the Looney Tunes days. He's like honorary cowboy guy with 2 guns.
Cute mustache.
He's got the dope mustache. There's this thing that Yosemite Sam does where he takes out both of his revolvers and he goes pow, 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 pow. And then he goes pow, 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 pow. And he like pops up into the air. That's us with climate change. bro, this climate change thing might be bad. They're like, whatever! And they're like, coal and gasoline, natural gas, fossil fuels, going nuts. America. Like, what a different world if we were just being careful about this climate thing. Well, you know, might kill everybody, let's get back in it. Okay, and study goal number 10 was one of these. If you give me examples of all these terms, we're done with this assignment. Let us see here. Utilitarian reason to save the whales. Why save the whales? Utilitarian reason. Why?
Oil good, whales make oil. Kill all whales, no oil.
Okay, so we want to save the whales to use them for their blubber to make lamp oil. Yep.
I said the whale watching thing.
This is not utilitarian. Well,
I mean, people make money off of whale watching.
I know, but it's not consumptive use.
Okay.
So we call that recreational or aesthetic. Now, that's kind of a subcategory because you're using them in a way that doesn't use them up. So usually recreational or aesthetic is utilitarian without consuming the resource. It's a type of utilitarianism. Yeah?
Some whales eat sharks, and we told the whales that there are going to be a lot of sharks, and there are going to be all the fish. and
Okay.
there are gonna be
Okay. Now, the whale is connected to another thing, and that other thing matters for separate reasons, so that's called ecological. Because you've made a connection that's real in ecology. You have seen some connection between species, that's an ecological justification. Usually that gets you to something utilitarian anyway. Because if I say, why do you care about the sharks? And you're like, oh, because sharks and fish and salmon and seafood is something I want to use. So ecological is a connection. And then usually that gets you into something utilitarian. Yeah?
They help circulate and grow the crow population, which can in turn grow consumer population like fish, birds, and stuff.
Great. So that's another ecological one, where you're connecting the whale to something else in the world. And then, like I pointed out with him, usually you care because of something else utilitarian that's not the whale itself. So indirect utilitarian through a connection, ecological. Moral and cultural are kind of weird. You'll know it when you see it. So people will say like, oh, save the dolphins because they're just so cool. Like everybody wants to save wild horses in the United States. Have you all heard this?
Yeah.
Horses can be like devastating and invasive and cause erosion in some places. And people are like, well, no, but they're horses. Come on, you know, horses.
Used to eat horses.
People should eat horses.
I have a friend who brought horse to school lunch.
To eat?
Yeah.
Did you ever try it?
No.
Because they're horses?
Yeah.
Yeah. See?
Have you ever tried
We
it?
can't explain it, but there's like, that's moral. It's like, you say potato, I say potato, like we just have a different opinion about this. Fine, you know. That's a moral justification.
Like eating cats and dogs.
I would pretty much, I think I'd even eat human. I think. I don't think I'd feel comfortable raising humans for the purpose of slaughter. But you know how you can like be like an organ donor?
I mean, it sounds like a free range.
Like if you could be like a meat donor. I might
Just
do
chop
that.
her leg off real quick.
Put it in your will.
Are you really considering it?
I mean, it's
I don't
In the sense that I'm considering immortality or flight, yeah. Like I don't really think it's a viable. Is that on the table? Like, is somebody offering? Like, I don't know. I'm not really considering it in the sense that I don't really think it's an option.
Like, imagine it was. I'm asking, are you
Yeah,
really
I would consider it. Yeah, I would consider it. I'm not actively considering it.
YOLO.
Who I'm gonna eat next? Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's
Good steaks on that one.
You get the equivalent of mad cow disease.
Oh, it's just the brain?
Yeah, it's something like eating that neural tissue of brains.
Mad cow disease?
Yeah, it applies to humans in some sense.
Yeah. Yes.
sorry, on that human eating bit.
Oh God.
Like two things. The first one is like if you went to the Lucky's and they had like long pig on the menu, would you order it?
Lung.
I'd be curious to try it.
Wait,
I have like
long?
What is
I've got this thing where like I would like to try most foods. I'm not really like grossed out by food that I don't normally eat. There's a lot of food that I have tried and not liked, like Thai food.
You know Thai food?
Dude.
Bro. Wait, what type of Thai food though? Like the crazy
Thai
stuff?
food in the quad, walking here.
Huh. That's gross.
Okay.
Peanut oil? Peanuts?
No, coconut curry.
Curry's kind of different. All right.
Curry's somewhat interesting though.
Thai curry's okay. But you gotta keep the peanuts out of it. Too much
No,
cilantro.
not curry, like a coconut curry, like noodle dish.
Whew.
With lemongrass.
I have once had a coconut curry noodle dish that was really spectacular. Do you know Mumu? Anybody here know Mumu?
Alright.
No, she's like a badass, like a local. Yeah, she makes really good food.
Have you had those lollipops with the bugs in it?
Oh yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
Not my style.
The scorpion one.
Not really big on lollipops and
I mean,
things.
they're flavored one.
The worm does nothing for me. But yeah, I've tried that.
You tried the tequila with the worm in it?
I have.
How does that worm taste?
I have not yet eaten the worm, but I'll bet you it would just taste like tequila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever ate one of those eggs that like bury under the ground and turn black?
No, have you?
Ever eaten balut?
What?
Balut.
No, what is balut?
It's basically, it's a fertilized duck egg that they let sit and mature until it's like out of the embryo, so it's kind of like a duck,
Crunchy.
but it's super tiny and it's still in the shell. You crack the shell and you eat it.
Not yet. Yeah.
Wouldn't you be like worried about like mad cow disease if you ate someone though?
Really
I'd
what?
probably try to limit that. Yeah, I guess I would worry about that. Yeah.
Rocky Mountain Oyster.
Haven't tried yet. Gotta admit, I'm a little bit put off, but I'm trying not to be.
The human, not that.
I guess it kind of depends on the parts of the human, but yeah.
If you were gonna eat a human, what part would you go for first?
That's what I was
Backstrap. Backstrap.
You go for backstraps?
Oh yeah, these.
Why would you go for that? No, you should go for the
That's the
butt.
best muscle, bro.
No, it's more muscle, but it's not tender.
Best muscle.
Yeah,
bro,
that's right.
They might not be pretty delicious.
I don't know how we ended up here, but at least we've broadcast this on YouTube. That's great. That's great. Oh yeah, moral justifications, right. We got moral justifications. Hey, can I use you as an example? Do you mind? Comfortable with that? Look. You like bring some stuff from home and then you like add a few things in class, like that little thing and then those little things. And that's the way that this works. 90% of your notes you made out of the book on your own. Like the test will be this whole thing, not just what came up in class, but some of that stuff in class would also be on the test. So you do most of the work at home and then I top it off a little bit like this and it's easy and this is the normal school day. I really dragged it out with this one because it's the first time we've done homework. Tomorrow we're going to do 1.2 and 1.3. And then on the day of block we'll do 1.4 and we'll get you ready for the exam and we'll talk about what the tests are like. And yeah. Would you please press stop streaming? It's a button on the bottom right.
I'm serious now.
Stop streaming.